Good evening, everyone. Good evening, it's Rail Natter. What a delight to have you. I'm doing this without earphones in because I realised that there's absolutely no sound, so why would I have earphones in? On the realisation that actually I wanted to have sound deck stuff. So it's too late. It's fine. There's no ears involved in this situation. It's just you, me, and the enormous soundboard, of which who knows what might happen and how loud it will be. Let's go for what a funny thing that I just said. Yeah, okay, I think you get the picture. Okay, good. No, it's still going. It's very funny. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. Anyway, yeah, so hello, it's Rail Natter. As ever, a quick thank you to my Patreon supporters for ensuring this sort of thing continues to happen. The chaos continues ad infinitum. What a delight. Particularly those on the £5 and above tier, you get treats. So thank you to you, and without further ado, welcome to tonight's Rail Natter. And as the Intercity 225 fades away, yes, the answer is indeed. In fact, the answer is that. Hello, it's me, and my face is next to the Stewart review. This is what we're covering tonight. We're talking about why HS2 died, or rather, a report that was done in June 2025 trying to explain why HS2 died, and I want to talk about how correct it is. The answer is both more and less correct than you might expect. But first, I have some questions to answer, and I'm going to go big face to do that. Firstly, I'm enjoying that. There are a few interesting comments in the chat. Everyone's being radicalised into abolish the Treasury. Yes, I should hope so. I don't know why handles have changed in YouTube. YouTube have once again clearly been paying their staff, or rather threatening to not pay their staff or sack them, so all their staff have started doing stuff again, and YouTube is totally different. For no good reason, and once again having to relearn how to use it, so thanks for that. LNR W1-Z2S, I've literally been burning to know where the thumbnail was taken for about 90 minutes, please help. That thumbnail was taken on the Selby diversion prior to its electrification, but shortly after its opening, with an HST roaring along. And if you want more about that, then go to search Google Rail Natter Selby diversion, and you will get lots about that. There's plenty. It's a rich seam to mine, quite literally. Little in joke for the people who've watched that. Part of my job for next week is value for money work. Excellent stuff. The usual pain. Anyway, we are here to talk about this report. And the important thing about any report, any page turn, any PDF page turn is context. It's really important to it's extremely important, in fact, to understand who has written this report, why have they written it, who have they written it for, because that helps you understand what it says, why it says what it says, and how to read what it says. And that's a really important thing for us to do now. It's interesting that Katie Fenn is saying, hello, Katie. It's interesting that you're saying that the subdiver... Do you want me to bring it? Wait a minute. People might be wondering what on earth this picture I'm referring to is. Wait a minute. I have the technology to show you all what this picture is. Wait a minute. I can do this. Look at this. In episode edit. And you know what's even funnier is I can give you the more of the full picture as well, because there we go. Is that what I wanted to do? Yes, I think it is. Yeah, lovely. Okay, good. It's worth it, I promise. So the picture we're talking about is this one. Look, am I hiding in the background? No, for once. This photograph is of the Selby diversion with the wonderful, slightly strange-looking, simple design, repeatable bridges that go over the top and just a lovely straight line. The Selby diversion was the UK's first high-speed line. And the reason it's interesting to compare it to LGV Sud-Est is because it's a contemporary of that high-speed line. Pretty close opening times, about a year or two either way. Yeah, it's interesting that you compare the two, Katie. Anyway, I digress. The key thing is, who is James Stewart? Here's James Stewart. No, not this one. Here's James Stewart. James Stewart, the author of this report. Well, actually, that's probably the easiest way to ask who he is to read his bio on his latest bio. He's aged a bit. Hello, James. His latest bio on a website of which he's somehow a part. One of these people who, I don't know what Agilia is. People can tell me what Agilia is. I suspect like an investment board or something. Anyway, yeah, this James Stewart, one of the most handsome men who's ever lived. Let's be quite honest with you, everyone. Look at him. Look at Jimmy Stewart. Oof. Anyway, James is chair of Agilia's board. His career spans both the public and private sectors, with infrastructure a constant theme. He started his career in banking. What was that? That was banking. And at Hambros and Societe Generale, and then became the CEO, and then became the CEO of Partnerships UK and Infrastructure UK. We'll talk about those in a second. For the last 10 years, he has been at KPMG, first as chairman of the global infrastructure business, and then more recently as UK vice chair and board member. James is currently building a portfolio of roles and has recently been appointed as a trustee of the Shaw Trust. I don't know what that last sentence means. Let's talk about. Well, firstly, Treasury have some involvement here. Oh, well, how about that? No, we have to focus. Sorry, everyone. So, what is Infrastructure UK, you might wonder? What indeed is Infrastructure UK? Well, Infrastructure UK was created in 2010. Infrastructure UK then became the Infrastructure and Projects Authority in 2016. And then in 2025, it was smooshed into the National Infrastructure and Service Transformation Authority, a bafflingly named organisation. But you might be wondering, well, what are these things? What are these weird quangos? And where do they sit? Well, Infrastructure UK was formed out of what was Partnerships UK, which was a 50% owned PLC. Who was the 50% owner? Well, one of the 50% was owned by one of our friends. Yes, because Partnerships UK was originally formed within Treasury as a thing called the Treasury Task Force. The role of the Treasury Task Force was to completely everything within the UK government. Specifically, to make everyone think about how they can make PFI happen. So the Treasury Task Force was created in 1997 by a series of... I will do an episode on PFI specifically and on the relationship very specifically between railways and PFI, and it's a mess. It's a mess. But yeah, we will go into the details of that. But suffice to say, PFI was utterly ridden within this organisation, Treasury Task Force, initialised by Major, really a bit of Thatcher, but mostly Major, and then Blair just gripped it and ran with it. So the Treasury and Brown all over it as well. Treasury Task Force. Which was about every part of government must be making sure that they're doing as much PFI as they possibly can. And so you'll note, this is all, by the way, Treasury, because, it's all a giant PFI hustle, folks, and being led by Treasury. So, yeah, no avoiding the good old, lovely Treasury. Yeah, so this report, before we get into it, there is one last thing. Can I get Devon... Can I get them to make me a "you can't say that on YouTube" bleep button? You can't say that on YouTube. Devon. Maybe Devon and I should have a chat and we'll arrange that. Anyway, this document. Before we start, I just want to quickly say, why is it so awful? What are they doing? Why is it so bad? Look, I for the sake of this episode took I think about 8 minutes to create a different cover for this document. I was like, well, okay, what fun thing could I do that's a bit different and isn't whatever the hell my first Word document ass report cover the Stewart Review has. Like, it looks a bit like the author has also been the guy, like they've let that nice old man, there's a serious air quotes around nice, but anyway, nice old man, let loose on the word processor himself rather than a grad doing it. And why is this important? Because Because this is such an important thing, and the idea that you create a report that's in theory so important, that looks so pathetic, suggests that you're not taking any of it very seriously. It's anyway. So just it doesn't take much. It's someone saying it's only a report to fair, not a brochure. These things are important. These things are important because how seriously government takes something like this is also how seriously the supply chain takes it. The left is official and the right is fan art. Yeah, the right one is my fan art front cover, that I very rapidly threw together in no time and would do a better job if I'd actually been asked to do it. Anyway, let's talk about this report. Let's do it. Let's do the old page turn. Let's make the magic happen. Oh, wait a minute. So before we do that, I need to do this and this and then this. And we've activated PDF mode. And also, crucially, I think you can see my mouse. So there we go. We're cooking on gas. Right. Let me just... My wife is a pharmacist, which is why the mug says, life of a pharmacist slinging pills to pay the bills. You can't say that pharmacists don't have a sense of humour. Right, let's do it. The Stewart Review. So the structure of this thing, well, let's not look at the formatting. It's going to give me an aneurysm. Let's see. Even so, when I was in the civil service, internal reports were more like Gareth than that cover. Yeah, I know. Yeah, right. So there's a chairs forward. There's navigating this review. There's an exec summary. Then there's a whole bunch of stuff on governance, assurance, cost schedule and benefits, capability and culture, main work, civils, contracts, Euston, wider lessons learned. I'm going to focus on the recommendation, on the conclusions and the recommendations from this. But we're going to annotate that by going through the body of the report. So we're going to jump over the executive summary. I'm going to go straight to governance. So there's a chairs forward here. There is marvelous with some left justify, but also some text in center justify as well. Just beautiful. Navigating this review is difficult. Navigating this review, 4 parts, exec summary, fine, governance, assurance, cost schedule, benefits, all that body, lessons learned. Basically, parts 2 and 3, or chunks 2 and 3, are the kind of the important bits that we want to have a look at. What's fascinating is that the context, and this is important, scope of the project is out of context, but let me just be... have I done an All-Ireland Strategic Rail Review page turn yet? Have we? We've certainly done quite a bit of stuff related to that, yeah. A little bit of Irish stuff to go back and have a look through if you want to. Anyway, sorry, I'm being distracted by my own audience. Oh, you lot, stop heckling me. Right. So, the HS2 programme aimed to construct a new high-speed, high-capacity railway between London, Leeds and Manchester via the West Midlands. So yes, good. London, Leeds and Manchester. It's mentioned the Leeds bit, which is very good. In October 2023, the government announced decisions to complete Phase 1 to the West Midlands and cancel the remaining sections of Phase 2 and HS2 East. The Secretary of State for the Department of Transport, you don't need to say for the department, you can just say the Secretary of State for Transport, has the role of funder, shareholder and sponsor of the programme. For the programme, HS2 Limited is an arm's length body for the DFT, responsible for the delivery of the programme and the operational railway. There we go. Actually, are they responsible for the operational railway? Anyway, okay, fine. Right, so exec summary. We're going to whiz through that. We don't care about the exec summary. We're going to dive straight into the chunky middle. Governance. Right. There's been a consistent message from all stakeholders that the current HS2 governance structure is not effective and that change is needed. And in this section, recommendations are made for governance structure for Phase 1. Euston then gets covered in Section 10. So, oh boy, there's about 20 words on this page, which is quite something. So, lots of stuff here about reduced duplication, simplicity, restoration of trust, clarity as to where holding to account responsibility lies, all sorts of stuff. It's like, okay. In my view, putting HS2 into the standard system has presented real constraints to the effective delivery of HS2 and a bespoke solution is required. It's like, this is a £100 billion project that started off as a £56 billion project. The idea that you'd attempt to deliver that through some existing process is mind-blowing to me. But we'll get there. We'll get into how you unmind-blow that. Yeah. So proposed governance structure. Let's have a look. What's the people? Yeah, right. So sorry. As ever, there's fascinating conversations going on in the chat, but I'm distracting myself. So there's a proposed governance structure. So Stewart is going right into proposing a governance structure without saying a huge amount about what the existing structure is. So, okay, I'm going to be honest with you. This is tinkering. This is going to solve very little. So, and all of a sudden we get to 5.2 cost-cutting themes. Oh boy. Oh boy. I mean, I hate this report already because it's just very poorly structured. This is the sort of thing that if you want the industry to learn anything from it or government to learn anything from it, you need to go to the effort of pulling out the important stories and annotating it and shaping and structuring it. It's depressing that at this point government can hustle up like a generically formatted Word document as the, you know, with barely any attention to actually what's all the numbering and Fs and fine numbers and single numbers and what's going on here anyway. Why is this important, by the way? Why is formatting important? Because this is a democratic document, and for people to have to access it and understand it and chew it up and democracy to happen, they have to be able to comprehend it and read it, and people who don't have the time to sit for 4, 5, 6 hours and pick through the whole thing should be able to digest it easily, and formatting is critical in that. So it is a democratic requirement that a document of this level of importance should be formatted in such a way that it's palatable to all of us who have busy lives and aren't paid to be running multi-billion-pound civil engineering projects or being the government in charge of them. So it is important. It's extremely important. Generative AI could do better than this. No, it couldn't. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. James Bedford 7327. Right. So, hooray for the far right being dethroned in the Dutch elections. Hooray for the centrists? Question mark. Anyway, cost-cutting themes. Trust between the various stakeholders in the project has eroded as a consequence of internal and external pressure on the programme. There is insufficient shared ownership of problems between organisations and no governance forum which brings together HS2 and DFT to collaborate and jointly solve problems. The balance between advocacy and criticism challenge needs to be restored. I think these are recommendations that are at the top. So HS2, large, complex, very difficult project to deliver. Tensions between stakeholders are inevitable. However, very significant pressures on the programme have caused trust to break down. The key is to have mechanisms to manage and diffuse tension. What has not helped is the binary nature of the relationship between HS2 Limited and DFT, in contrast to most other projects which have multiple stakeholders. Crossrail had 2 sponsors, Sizewell C had EDF as co-shareholder to government as well as Ofgem and third-party financiers. I mean, I would not be holding up Sizewell C as an example of a successful project, but anyway. Sizewell C is not too bad actually. Hinckley's the main disaster, but yeah, anyway. Regarding this binary relationship, it's not a binary relationship because you've just written a report that hasn't mentioned Treasury, who have constantly meddled in the project. So already I'm going, well, what are you basing this on? Where's the science behind it? Where is the science behind this? Okay, so if you look at other programs, there's often a program board with representatives from the delivery body and the sponsor. A good example of this was the Olympic Board Steering Group for the Olympic and Paralympic Games in 2012. Okay. I'm sorry, but all of this feels like hopeless tinkering, and to open the report with this is interesting. Role of the DFT. Blurring and a misunderstanding of the different roles of DFT in the governance structure. Well, yes. What is the role of the DFT within here? Well, yeah. And what is the role of the DFT going forwards at all? Politics. The whole section on politics. I'm sure that you dedicate the majority of the report to this. Politics and the pace of... Okay, right. So since January 2020, there have been 4 prime ministers, 6 chancellors, 5 secretaries of state for transport, and HS2 has been operating in a period of unprecedented political instability. Between 2020 and 2022, a dedicated HS2 minister was appointed. My understanding is that this HS2 minister spent 80% of his ministerial time in HS2. Marvellous. Feedback on this period of more dedicated ministerial leadership has been positive. Okay. This ongoing political instability and the irregular replacement of ministers is perhaps one cause of the failure of government to align behind a single, unified position regarding HS2. But you just talked about 2020. Like, the problems with HS2 did not start in 2020. Things were more stable. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's the reason that all this has happened is, spoiler alert, the shallow reason HS2 died is because Rishi Sunak cancelled it because of a by-election result. That's a really important thing for everyone to understand, because that's if we're writing the RAIB report, that's the bold text. That's the root cause. The underlying causes are what we're going to talk about in a bit more detail. Very influential, let's see, political, also been very influential voices calling for the programme's cancellation, which has been very disruptive and impacted the culture and behaviours across all levels of DFT and HS2 Limited. Yeah, and that hasn't helped by the fact that government has... Gilligan, by the way, that's a reference directly to Gilligan, who was transport advisor under Boris Johnson and others, and Sunak. So you might then go, well, then why didn't government, that's the big boss, just assert that they actually had confidence in it, rather than all the half-assed stuff and the umming and ahhing and the briefing and the counter briefing and the cross briefings. Another consequence of the politics has been a difficulty in making decisions, leading to major delays and additional cost. One mitigant for political disruption is to ensure that there is a buffer or challenge. This and other mitigants, I don't like that word, are, what is it, mitigation? One mitigation for, anyway, are explored further below in the cost, schedule and benefits section. Okay, so that's it. That's it on politics. So there's all this stuff on HS2 board that is, frankly, again, not hugely insightful. Accounting officer, and the legal duties of the non-exec is completely... What? Just... So all this junk. Yeah, whatever. Oh, HMT mentioned. Here we go. The DFT and HMT representatives on the board have been a positive development. Right. Anyway, so, okay, let's go. Right, so the DFT and ministerial representatives are ministerial appointments but should be done in consultation with the chair. However, accepting that all board appointments are ultimately... This is just board stuff. It's just, okay. So, again, it's like... Is this... What's the evidence that this is going to make any difference to anything, other than going, well, some of the other projects did it and they were all right, referring to two projects that famously didn't go great in various parts, Crossrail being a key example, didn't go great. Its governance was rubbish towards the end, and there were serious problems. Yeah. So, and then some more tinkering. Sponsor board, sponsor executives, and program board. Right. Okay. Sponsoring the drive service. Okay. Fulfilling the obligations and accountability to DFT. Okay. Tinkering. What have we got here? DFT entities involved in approvals, or the various bits of DFT that shouldn't have any involvement in it whatsoever. Just program. Look at this. It's just tinkering. This is tinkering. This is not useful to explain where the problems were. There's no evidence. There's no strong recording of evidence here. I understand that Stewart had a difficult time with a huge amount of information, but it's just not. There's a lot of stuff that just feels like upper level tinkering around the edges, that it's not going to make a huge amount of difference to some of the fundamentals, which again we will get into. Here's a fun sentence that gives a bit of a game away. However, DFT should not be the only financial shareholder on HS2. In reality, His Majesty's Treasury, on behalf of the government, carries a very significant financial risk on the HS2 programme, both as funder and shareholder. Although Treasury has had significant involvement in the HS2 programme, that's the only mention of that. This has often been reactive and one step removed. Right. The main way in which Treasury currently recognises its shareholder role is by appointing a representative on the DFT board. Recognising Treasury as a financial shareholder confirms that Treasury has a vested interest in the success of HS2 and that any overruns over and above the DFT contingency goes directly to Treasury for funding. So this seems to be elevate Treasury formally rather than informally. Yeah, okay. Interesting. A shareholder board needs to be established. This needs to be a joint forum between DFT and HMT. Don't make me hit the bloody... Don't make me do it again. Okay, right. So... Right, so... Shareholder board membership should be the DFT permanent secretary. Let's count for... Let's count Treasury people. So, of the people we have here, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 board members. So, of which senior HMT official, HMT shareholder representative, 2 independent members nominated by the DFT and HMT. So that's 3 out of 8 are going to be Treasury people for a railway. Nope. No. No. Okay. Right. Ministerial task forces. Okay. We're going to delegations, approvals. Do you understand why I don't have a huge amount of confidence in this document and its conclusions? Well, I'm going to buck that a little bit by the end of it, because there are some useful things we can learn out of this, but it just involves us passing this report through the RailNatter filter, and we start being able to unpick some of the realities of what was going on. I'm gonna just like look at this, look at it. It'll just. So this is like lots of all the different reports, Okavi review, the various things that said, oh, you need to change this, then you need to change it again, then you need to change it again. Lessons learned, without focusing on right. Maybe if we had a rolling program rather than a single fixed major project, that would work. But we don't. We've got a major fixed project that we've built a structure around that's difficult, that's not lean and capable to be delivered. Wider government system and potential solution. Oh, okay. In the executive summary, I discussed that a bespoke... Wait, what? Never refer to the executive summary. The executive summary is a summary of the body of the report. The body of the report should exist without caring about the executive summary. What are you doing? This is basic A-level report writing stuff. Come on, man. Right. There is currently no long-term funding settlement in operation. The program is operating on annual funding settlements alone. Let me just be clear about that. What is no longer, sadly, but was a fundamental economy, like reforming, transformative project of, give or take, 100 billion quid, did not have commitment to its full delivery within a funding envelope, allowing problems at the start to be resolved long term. No, having a single annual funding settlement drives the worst behaviors for anything at all, let alone a major program like this. You have a 1-year incentive. How on earth do you incentivize anyone to do anything in terms of long-term good behaviors for delivery? Utterly baffling. The fact that the executive summary is driving the content of the report is a fantastic metaphor. Lawrence Job, you are absolutely spot on. Again, reference to the Olympic and Paralympic Games that I would not describe as necessarily being successful civil engineering delivery or major project deliveries. They just had a major... But even if you do count them as that, they had a key objective to deliver, which is we have to build the thing by a certain time, and therefore they had infinite money to do so. Like, this is... Like, look, okay, let's just read this. It is interesting to compare the arrangements with the 2012 Olympic and Paralympic Games, where the UK government had guaranteed the financial risk and there was a fixed delivery date. There was a bespoke approach, and this meant that the whole government was aligned and had a financial interest in a successful outcome with a fully funded contingency and clear governance arrangements to access it. That is a useful sentence and highlights something that's very interesting indeed, and is a short paragraph split across 2 pages. Possibly the most important paragraph in the whole document. Right, potential solution. So this talks about giving its own departmental expenditure limit, being ring-fenced from DFT so that it doesn't impact on other funding. That is a good idea, so it doesn't impact on the funding for other elements. It gets rid of the HS2 stealing money from XYZ. Giving a 5 or 10 year, ideally, funding control period. Should have agreed provisions to allow flexibility to move money from one year to another. Arrangements should be put into place to manage inflation risk so that the project doesn't get shrunk because of inflation. Inflation risk above the given threshold becomes a risk retained by the financial shareholder, in my view, should be allocated to HMT. Of course it should. DFT takes a first loss equity, but I don't, funded from its budget. This is done for Crossrail. Fine. I don't care about that particularly. Others might. I don't. HF2 as shareholder would be positioned as the reserve equity and ultimately the funder of last resort. Okay, fine. So, and then we get to assurance. There's more, by the way, folks. Let me just quickly go big face for a second and tell you how much page there is. There's much page. That was 49, and there's 132. So we're not going to be dwelling on this. Don't worry. You'll be glad to know. In fact, we're going to be fairly rapidly hammering through this because, again, assurance. Oh my goodness. Okay, assurance. Cost, schedule, and benefits, right. Anything interesting here? So the NIC recently did their major infrastructure projects cost drivers report. That's going to be an interesting one to read. I wonder if that's going to have anything relevant or useful in it to this. Yeah, let's remind me. We're going to do that one soon. Maybe in a couple of episodes, because I'd be very interested to pick that up. The fact that the cost estimates for HS2 have been continually too low and unreliable is well documented. The funding envelope for Phase 1 went from 22 billion in 2011 prices to 45 billion in 2019 prices. Well, maybe you should... So wait, let's just do a quick sum. Bank of England. Let me just get this over here. Pop this up here. So what was that? That was... What is that? 22 billion in 2011 prices, and we want that then in 2019 prices. So, which is 25.5 billion. Kind of feel like you should open with that. So 25 billion to 45 billion, to the latest estimate being between 45 and 54 billion, and 49 and 57 billion. So we've gone from 25 to 57 billion according to this, which we know is not quite right, but it's a sizable chunk. Go back to previous episodes where we broke down the numbers through the NAO report, which was much clearer on this point. So we're going to go through. Okay, so NIC report, comprehensive, rich vein of data underpinning it, endorses findings. Okay, so let's have a look at this. Let me go back. You didn't see any of that because I haven't put it on big face. Yeah, thank you. I'm going to do the PDF face again. You didn't miss anything exciting. It was just Bank of England numbers. So, failure to iterate effectively between concept design, which ensures desired outcomes, and affordable budgets. Okay, a failure to plan projects well and build them fast. Yeah, it's important to build fast. Agree with that. A failure to enable repeatability of projects, which can drive down costs. Now, what might give you the ability to repeat projects? A failure to invest in innovation. What might result in you being interested in investing in innovation? No. NIC report doesn't include a conclusion that is critical in all of that. How interesting. We'll pick that up in a minute. So, yeah, right. So anyway, right. So this is going to be, without that key point being picked up, all of this is just cost obsession, cost obsession, cost obsession, cost obsession, cost obsession. All sorts of things that are continual optimism, development cost estimate, treasury guidance and P50, P70, all sorts of stuff that I'm sorry is fundamentally it's just tinkering. It's just tinkering. Estimates being quoted using historic prices causes confusion. Well, I mean, yeah, absolutely agree with that. Because there's been no baseline, but then also people and the press particularly compare like the 2009 prices and 2011 prices, and what role do I think Brexit distractions in government played in the demise of HS2? A fairly significant one. Not like Brexit didn't kill HS2, that would be stupid, but it suffocated government at a time when loads of stuff was going on. It's not a coincidence that lots of issues of government capacity occurred at that point, and everything else was suffocated. We became massively navel gazing as a country and stopped doing anything. Not that we were in a great shape before that, though. Business case and benefits. Right, okay. All government projects required to produce a business case as part of the appraisal and approval process. Fine. In my experience, business cases for mega projects tend to be handled differently to smaller projects. Tendencies to look at the individual case for the mega project with the aim of producing a standalone benefit cost ratio. For smaller projects, business cases can be more easily used to compare the merits of alternative projects, so choices can be made. Appraisal methodology may also focus more on supporting the scrutiny of benefits than cost. Okay. There's been considerable debate on the methodology for calculating benefits for transport projects, and particularly the wider economic benefits. From my conversations with experts, my understanding is that wider economic benefits can be derived from estimating average effects or estimating the likelihood of such effects in the context of specific projects on which there is very little research. Wider benefits do not follow instinctively from delivery of a rail project in the way that time savings do. There is unavoidable uncertainty over whether how economic activity will adjust to a new rail service, and this is assumed away in the current approach to business cases, which bases its estimates of wider economic benefits on the average effects of past schemes, except that clearly they don't, because past schemes are always, or schemes, Northumberland line, for example. So we're going through this, and yeah, oh look, the levelling up agenda has been mentioned. Not once have we talked about release capacity and the fact that that hasn't been included in the analysis. Early on, it seems apparent that the business case was a significant driver of the requirements and scope, i.e. speeds of over 320 kilometers an hour and 17 trains per hour necessary to drive the benefits case. Is what I have to say about that. The cost implications of this scope were completely underestimated. No, this is fundamentally missing a key... I cannot find any evidence that the contribution of HS2 to this objective was specifically compared to other alternative rebalancing projects. Okay. Yeah. Right. So basically what's being suggested here is that the business case was overestimated, whereas, as we all know, the business case is... also, just a pièce de résistance here. As a final point, the business case has not been updated since 2020. This is despite the cancellation of Phase 2 in HS2 East and COVID-19 altering travel patterns and the way people work. This must impact the value of time, which plays a major part in the benefits calculation. Oh my goodness. Yeah, quite something. Quite something. You just have to sort of, like think happy thoughts. Think nice, relaxing, gentle, happy thoughts, so that we don't become extremely angry. Capability and culture. Okay, well, you know what? With this, there is a significant degree of turnover at the very top of its leadership. Okay, so new chief exec, new chair. I just want to read. Where we go. These roles are of a magnitude and significance which mean they should only be combined. Right. So, I welcome the recent appointment of Mark Wilde as chief executive, which will allow the reinstatement of an independent chair and Alan Foster to focus on the CFO role after a 14-month interregnum. Okay, so this guy's pro-Wilde by the look of it. Interesting. There we go. The HS2 program has not been seen as an attractive place to work, and it's been difficult to attract. Why wonder why the that is? I wonder why the fuck that is. I wonder. Yeah. Now, what might have made HS2 an unpopular organisation to work in and for? Couldn't possibly say. Significant turnover of HS2 staff. Yeah. The setting up of a brand new delivery vehicle has made building capacity far more difficult. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Fascinating. HS2 Limited has been underpowered in the delivering commercial functions. Restricted pay levels and protracted approval processes at all levels have constrained the ability to recruit the appropriate people, and people have been lost in the process to alternative jobs in the private sector. Wow. So... yeah, now I wonder. We're gonna hammer through this again because you know what? Talking about trust and then look, Mainworks civils contracts redacted for commercial confidentiality. Well, yeah. Anyway, good. And then there's a whole section on Euston. Less of that, the better, I think. There's a whole wider lessons learned section. You know what? I'm going to put that to one side because I think it's worth us diving into the report and talking about... diving into the report and... or rather, diving out of the report and diving into the conclusions and the recommendations, because these are genuinely instructive. So... these are straight. So the white text here, little cream text, is the wording of the conclusion from the executive summary, and then the red is the Rail Natter translation of that. So this number one is politics and the pace of political decision making have been a disruptor, and there has been no buffer. I'm going to translate that to the UK lacks any plan whatsoever. What I mean by that is, if there was a plan, a big overarching plan, it'd be very difficult for government to divert from it following minor political win, when that plan has been something that's been bought into by all levels of government, national, regional, local, and business, private stakeholders, communities, environmental groups, and so on and so on. Having a big full plan, one that that actually is explicit about its desired objectives, would have been much more difficult to put the kibosh on after a by-election result. Number two, and usefully, these possibly inadvertently do tie into each other. So this is the official conclusion. Schedule has been prioritized over cost. Now, the way I'd restructure that is the lack of a plan creates a vacuum of objectives. What I mean by that is, if you don't have a plan, then you're going to, if you don't have a plan, then it means that you don't know why you're building the thing, and therefore you're going to fall back to schedule and cost as your only drivers of delivery, rather than the third part of the triangle, which is quality, which covers things like actual purpose and objectives. The next one, there is a need to change the culture on cost and affordability. I'm going to translate that as, because this is obviously a cost-obsessed document, unhelpfully, I'm going to translate that to, no objectives make cost obsession inevitable. Cost obsession is something HS2 is heavily afflicted with, as so much of the UK is. No objectives make cost obsession inevitable. And that neatly leads into the next one, which is a bespoke approach is required to deliver a program of the size and complexity of HS2. I will describe that as the UK government has a deep paucity of skills and capacity. They're brilliant people, but they're few and far between and almost invariably massively overworked. Someone saying HMG could do with SMART goals. Yes, quite. Yeah. So, number 5, trust between stakeholders needs to be restored. Now, I'm going to translate this one to cost obsession and political meddling are incompatible. So if you're obsessed with costs, but you also want to do relentless political meddling, you're going to make some people unhappy. You're going to break some eggs, and not in a constructive way. And also, number 6, the inability to arrive at reliable cost and schedule estimates has undermined the delivery of confidence in the programme. I'm going to translate that to cost obsession and political meddling are expensive. Because the one thing about being obsessed with costs and meddling both politically, meddling politically and also mucking around with it, cancelling sections and obsessing over cost, is that you drive the costs up. Oh, whoops. There we go. Number 7. The failure of the mainwork civils contracts to deliver reliable outcomes within the affordability framework has been a persistent problem for the programme. Here's the Rail Natter translation. Having no plan means one big, horrible, impossible to deliver lump. What do I kind of mean by that? If there was a plan, a big plan, then you would never deliver HS2 as a single thing. It wouldn't be called HS2. You'd be delivering Euston as its own project off the bat, knowing what it needs to do for the rest of the railway network into the infinite future, or certainly to the end of the century. You'd be building small sections. You'd build a high-speed line that is built in sections, smaller, easy to manage sections, potentially with more interaction with the existing railway network, in terms of joining and leaving and things like this. It potentially changes the way that the map looks, but certainly you build those sections. You build the inner city section, and then you build the outer countryside section separately. So you do all these things, allowing you to do staged benefits, and rather than waiting 20 years before you start seeing any beneficial outcomes. You deliver, and you don't stop at the Y network. You keep cracking on, and you have a rolling program which incentivizes innovation, incentivizes reducing costs so you can deliver more within a certain number of years. People are saying, doesn't that make it more cancelable? No, because if you cancel one bit because someone gets upset, the advantage of the whole picture is that other bits are still being delivered. You can come back and deliver that bit again some other time. Like, if you cancel one project, that's it, killed. See also HS2. Whereas if you had 40 projects, then actually the ability to knock one or two out temporarily because someone's got upset politically doesn't kill the whole program, doesn't kill the whole project. Number 8, HS2 Limited and DFT as the sponsor have been consistently underpowered in performing their roles. This is a follow-on. So, an impossible lump requires infinite client capacity. If you have a huge project, a massive project like this, you will never have enough client capacity to deliver it. You never will. When I say client capacity, I mean government. Number 9, infinite client capacity is impossible to oversee. That's the Rail Natter translation of the governance structure is not fit for purpose and needs to be changed. So you start seeing the emerging picture here. Right, so let's just quickly go through those. So 1, the UK lacks any plan whatsoever. Two, you know what, I'm not going to say the numbers. I'm going to read these in sequence because I think it's cleaner if I do so. The UK lacks any plan whatsoever. The lack of a plan creates a vacuum of objectives. No objectives makes cost obsession inevitable. The UK government has a deep positive skills and capacity, meaning that cost obsession and political meddling fundamentally are incompatible, and that cost obsession and political meddling are expensive. No plan means one big, horrible, impossible to deliver lump. An impossible lump requires infinite client capacity, and infinite client capacity is impossible to oversee. Hence a large mess. Yeah, it's bad. What is happening at Euston? Good question. That should be Euston needs a delivery plan, agreed funding, and a governance structure. But honestly, the report basically says this. Like, this is not me saying this because Euston reason. This is the report says this, not me. The Network Rail comms and press team and everyone have at me, but I'm not saying anything. And the last of these, the last conclusion here is that government should support its own... I'll read this. The balance between advocacy and criticism challenge needs to be restored, which is a way of saying government should support its own project. It should. That's a good idea. Imagine it doing that. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Anyway, so where does that leave the UK? Or certainly GB? Someone actually... Kerma Police has asked... how was High Speed 1 delivered differently so that it was more successful? It had very clear objectives. Very, very clear objectives. High-speed line connecting the Channel Tunnel with a new station at St Pancras. Very straightforward. It knew what it was delivering. It was delivering a certain number of trains. The scope was very straightforward. It was didn't need to be part of any bigger... Well, it was part of a bigger scheme because it was delivered in 2 chunks, actually. And it had also been delivered as part of a broader idea of what you would do between London and the Channel Tunnel. So in a way, it was kind of a microcosm of what I'm saying you should have done on HS2. But fundamentally, it was a very easy project to build. And also, it's just an extension of a French LGV. Like, it's not a... It was built as an LGV, just basically inherited and built over here. So, the conclusions. And I'll read the official, and then I'll read the translated versions, because I'm not hugely impressed by these, although they're not all bad. The programme requires a fundamental reset. Which a fundamental reset means an agreed and fixed scope, an agreed baseline estimate of completion, a long-term and ring-fence funding settlement, restoration of trust between HS2 Limited DFT, a revised and simplified governance structure, a commercial reset of the main works, civils contracts, a capability uplift of HS2 and sponsor teams. Translated to do another round of meddling. Number 2, the programme requires a new governance structure. Tinker with the top brass. Number 3, the wider system of government in which HS2 operates needs to be adapted. I give HS2 some funding autonomy. A good one. That's that's a good one. We like that one. It's positive. Number 4, the approach to assurance and reviews should be overhauled. To which I've translated into put all of the headless chickens in one basket. It doesn't make the chickens have heads again. They might be in one basket, sure, but it doesn't really help you at all. Number 5, agreement on the estimate at completion and a new baseline are required, as well as changes to the way that cost estimates are produced. I will translate this to hope that costs will be fine now whilst changing nothing. Yes, interesting. Right. Yeah. Michael C is pointing out a very, very good point, which is why mention nuclear power plants, but not the only significant high-speed line this country has already delivered? Yeah, why is that, Michael, I wonder? Fascinating. So... number 6, HS2 Limited and DFT need a plan to restore trust. Interesting, that one. I wonder what that might look like in terms of I'm gonna provide my translation for that one here. Sorry, I'm just doing some last minute. Trust me, it's necessary. Right, so where are we? So what's this? So the HS2 and DFT need a plan to restore trust. So I'm going to put the RailNet translation on this. That is, rely on a man who to rebuild trust. Okay, cool. That'll definitely work. By the way, I should say, while I delete my orange square, I should say that, restoring trust is a key objective of the reset. This will take time. The arrival of Mark Wilde as CEO will help, and I've structured my recommendations around governance with this objective in mind. Interesting. Yeah, right, well, Mark Wilde. Cool. Right, the next one. Capability of both HS2 Limited and DFT should be reviewed. Number 7 is employ enough people. Yep, gonna go with that. That's fair. And number 8 is literally redacted for commercial confidentiality, to which my Railnetter translation says, what was that about trust? I'm going to say that's probably cancelled this particular main work civils contract and appointed to someone else. Might be that, but there are, I'd imagine, significant commercial wranglings. Someone saying, well, you can say anything once. I didn't have to say it. Anyway, right. Number 9, Euston governance should be based on the proposed Phase 1 governance structure, to which my response is just tinker with the top brass again. So, yeah. What do I think? What do I think about this? Well, I've got my own set of things that I'm going to put on the screen in a second, but anyone wants to join the bonus, by the way, where we might talk about exactly what that redaction is. Have fun with that, and hello to the legal team who joins that episode. Pay your Patreon money. 2 Pandrel clips. Oh, I didn't Pandrel clip this one, did I? Oh my goodness me. Can he Pandrel clip this episode in enough time that can I do it? A minute. The answer is possibly. I'm doing big face. James, I'm giving you a bit of an edit job here. Everyone who's watching this is going, what Pandrel it? What are you talking about, man? To which my response is, it's worth it. I promise. We're doing it. We're going over here. How insightful is this report? Well, we'll have to wait until. That's the next slide, isn't it? We're doing it. Oof. Oh, we're getting there. Oh, I'm doing it. What do we think? What do we think the numbers are? What are we reckoning? What are we thinking, folks? I'm going with. Where's this thing? Let's go with. There we are. I'm going to shove that there and get rid of the. Thanks for reminding me of the format of my own program. The format of my own ruddy episode. There we are. We're getting there. James, you'll understand in the end, ultimately, probably. What do I want to do? I want to make this. I want the background to be. What color do I want it to be? Let's go with a. You know what? Let's go with that blue that I did at the start, because you know what? That was a nice blue. We're going to stick with that blue. Okay. We're done. Actually, you know what I need to do is go backwards. We're guessing how many Pandrel clips this report has. So the Stewart review. What do we think? Stewart review. How many? Katie Fenn's going for 2. 2 goes down to 1 or 1.5 due to the redactions. Yeah, that's a fair point raised on the redaction front. Yeah, I'll go with that. You're not seeing any of this. Yeah, fine. Yeah, I'm gonna go with. Let's see. It's getting 1.5. It's getting 1.5 on this. So yeah, you're all got the good instincts. 1.5 or 2. Yeah, this is getting 1.5. It's not a total disaster. Middest of mid reports. Yeah, exactly. It's just not great, I would say, frankly. It's not completely without insight, but there are problems. There are serious problems. Talking of which, let's finally round off this episode. Well, no, because there's a little bit of news we're going to go through. But what did the North Wales report get? Someone remind me. Right, so number 1, 4 recommendations from the Gareth report, which is very different to the Devon report, and of course very different to the Stewart report. Number 1, strategy. It's 4 S's, by the way. It's nice, and I made it as simple as possible. Strategy. You need a strategy. Plan the whole high-speed rail network now based on long-term needs. Critical. Number 2, scope. Split the project into chunks that can actually be managed and delivered. Normal-sized 1 billion quid sized chunks. And probably in some cases, hopefully cheaper than that. Split the damn thing up into little bits. Just it's such an obvious, baffling thing that these contracts were so huge. No organisation can deliver contracts that size, and particularly not the British construction supply chain, which is a shit show of its own making. Right, 3, scale. The pipeline of work will enable the supply chain to retain skills and bring down costs through innovation. You get the scale from having the strategy, then you can do things like innovation, you can do things like retain those skills, and build our ability to actually deliver stuff and keep delivering it. And the last one is subcontractors. Critical that you consolidate the construction industry to obliterate subcontracting complexity. You can't completely get rid of subcontractors, but you can destroy huge numbers of them. Strategy, scope, scale, subcontractors. And the key thing about this is all of it can be done before 2030. There are obviously big picture economic stuff that we've talked about in RailNet before that you can't do before 2030, but all of that could be done before 2030 and might actually change some stuff. Of course, Treasury is the big picture, and that is extremely difficult. James Bedford is pointing out, wasn't the original stretch of M1 lots of different contracts with a broader plan? The entire motorway network was built that way, James. Absolutely. Spot on. Adam PK2TE has said, speaking of a national network, I see you've given Bastani his Southern High Speed line in Rail Magazine. That was what we talked about in episode 222. We did that. Yeah, there's Rail Magazine's picked up a bit of railway history, hasn't it? Or future railwayness, hasn't it? That's interesting. Anyway, right, Treasury. What's the thing that we need to do? Well, other than the fundamental fact that our economy is fragmented to hell deliberately to make everything as complicated as possible because the theory is that you get value out of those fragments. Well, we know that's not the case. We've all watched Fifth Element. It's not true. Fundamentally, what we lack, what HS2 lacked, what Britain lacks, is any coherent idea of what our future looks like. We need a plan. If only someone had written about this in 2018. As soon as I actually started engaging with this and then said, I wrote a little piece titled HS2 will fail without joined up thinking and a long-term plan. And everything that I said would be bad that would happen in that report happened. HS2 died because there was no plan. This is the fundamental answer to this question. And it is desperately exasperating. Very frustrating. Right. Bonus. For those who are subscribed to the £5 and above tier, you get Splash Coffee. No, you get another. You get a Green Gauge 21 report. We're going to talk about HS2 East option because this thing came out and it's I think it's a bit daft and it's going to be interesting to have a look at it. See what Jim Steer's been up to. So that is after this at 9:30. Come and join. Should be fun. The news. Talking of business cases and the Green Book, well, Northwest Place here reporting that, or is it Place Northwest? Difficult to tell. Very 2000s-y title logo. Liverpool Central Station chosen for Green Book pilot. Basically, this is essentially trying to suggest that benefit-cost ratios will carry less weight as this project tests proposed Green Book reform. To which my response will be, well, actually, tell you what, there's a quote in this that I want to talk about. There's a quote. The quote here is from a chap called Jenkinson. He says, Jenkinson stresses that a new system will not suddenly mean investment floods into regional towns. You can't get away from latent market fundamentals, Jenkinson said. I mean, you can. What the new system proved in Greater Manchester is those areas that are naturally close to city centre perform better because the value fundamentals of that particular project are better. If you go further out into the towns, there is huge improvements, but not sufficient improvements to really change the dial. That's still going to be the challenge with the new Green Book. So, frame of reference is doolally from this person. However, the point is that if you think the project's a good idea, build it. Why are you looking for a business case to justify a thing that either, as a politician, you think this should happen, or you don't? If you think it should happen, then it should be built. Treasury, if your role is to say no to someone, a regional leader who says this should be built, then what is your role? It seems like you're just blocking economic growth at that point. So staggering. This isn't going to solve anything. Like the fundamentals are far deeper. In other news, BBC News is pointing out that bike thefts at stations have been decriminalised by de facto. Okay, the headline simplifies things a little bit, but basically the BTP have said that they will not investigate bike thefts outside stations where the bicycle has been left for more than 2 hours, which is most bicycles if you've taken a train anywhere, because your train is, the whole point is that you've gone off and are coming back. I say this as someone who has a bicycle currently locked up near York Station because I left my jackets. I had an ADHD moment, left my jackets, my lovely waterproof, orange waterproof and Rab waterproof. The 1530 north from Waverley to Aberdeen on the 17th of October. If anyone has any way of finding my 2 jackets, which also, by the way, have my lovely sunglasses and my house keys and other keys in them, having probably doxed myself inadvertently several times, people are now going to break into my house, aren't they? Well, don't do that, please. What you can do is please find my orange jackets and bring them to me. If there's anyone from ScotRail watching, help, please. I thought they'd be in lost property and they're not. It's very frustrating. Anyway, I digress. This is not ideal. Yeah, they also have my bike keys in, which is why my bike is still locked up. It's my old one, thankfully. But anyway, yes, this is just a representation of like how stretched BTP are, for better or worse, you know, but also just generally how stretched everything is at the moment, to the point where like if people can just come and nick your bike and nothing will happen, which is pretty depressing. Yeah, not great. Again, talking of ADHD moments, I want to say sorry to anyone who's waiting for things to happen. My inbox is bigger than this now, more bigger. But just pester me, send me an email again. If I owe you something, email me again and we'll get it sorted. And that includes the, I think, 35 guests that I've now lined up and haven't organised anything with. I love you all and I want to share those guests with you because there's so many fun episodes. I just have not had mental capacity, mostly through not having a permanent job. It's not good for brain, lack of stress, as many of you will know. Dominic's book event tomorrow night, I'm not sure it's happening because Waterstones are mental. A day ago, we were notified that that we needed a boost in numbers for them to break even. But that was, well, I'd say a day ago, it was this morning. It's like, well, okay, well, could have told us a week ago and then we'd have done more shouting about it and would have plugged it harder and specifically asked people to come. So I don't, updates on that on their website, but the Waterstone seem to pull the event website down, the webpage. So, anyway, extremely frustrating. So Dominic is going to come on a rail natter and we'll do it for rail natter anyway. We'll do the same night that we were going to do, but we'll do it on a rail natter and it'll be lovely because Dominic, I haven't been on before, but this book is brilliant. I really like it and I want to tell you about it because it's a lovely, worthwhile thing to buy and read. On which note, also there are a few podcast episodes I have or will be popping up soon, including the bonus episode. Including the live show. The DC live show is now up on the Patreon for W2IP. So if you're a Patreon supporter, you have a DC live show that you can go and watch. And why would you go and watch that? What's that related to me for? Well, who knows? Anyway, it only remains for me to say thank you so much for watching. This was a bit of a hammer through, but hopefully some very important points in there. Anyone who's new to Rail Natter, hello. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this made some coherent sense. Welcome to the chaos. To my dear editor, James, sorry about the fun for the edit. And also the audio for last week is going up momentarily. Is it illegal for me to discuss Palestine, by the way? No, I wish I could show you I lost my pin badges from PSC, but I can just bring... I absolutely support Palestinians. I'm just hearing from my lawyer. Yes, that's not going to get me jailed yet, apparently. No, I have a massive Palestinian flag outside the window, in the window of my house, among other things. There's a genocide that we've been funding and supporting, and it's not good. We shouldn't do that. That's extremely bad. Solidarity to all Palestinians. Only if you want to lose your revenue on YouTube. I didn't have any revenue on YouTube anyway, so it's fine. No bother. Yeah, shove your watermelons high. Right. I love you all very much. To the new people here, I hope you enjoyed this chaos. To the people who've been here for years now, I love you unendingly. I'm stopping waffling. I'm going to go and collapse face first before I set the bonus episode up. Bye. See you in the bonus episode. Bye. Bye.